Yeah, aye. Lionel and Patrick, what a pair, thinking outside the box. They don't play fair, unconventional ways, breaking all the rules, making their own path, never following the fools. Unconventional playbook, rewriting the game. Lionel and Patrick, they'll never be the same, dancing to their own beat in a world so plain. Unconventional playbook, they're here to entertain. Lionel's a dreamer with stars in his eyes. Patrick's a schemer with tricks in disguise. Together they're unstoppable, a force to be reckoned with. Their unconventional playbook, they'll never be second. Unconventional playbook, rewriting the game. Lionel and Patrick, they'll never be the same, dancing to their own beat in a world so plain. Unconventional playbook, they're here to entertain. Against all odds they stand tall, through highs and lows they never fall. Lionel and Patrick, a duo so rare, with their unconventional playbook, they're always there. Unconventional playbook, rewriting the game. Lionel and Patrick, they'll never be the same, dancing to their own beat in a world so plain. Unconventional playbook, they're here to entertain.
Welcome to another 4-0 edition of the UP Unconventional Playbook. There's no better person that I would rather be celebrating this 4-0 Minnesota Vikings season than my guy, the sports guru of Minnesota, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. What's up, Pat?
What's up, man? It is I'm gonna have a little bit more excitement this week because it was Green Bay week. So I've been subtle. It was Green Bay Packer week, man. And to knock off them in 3 straight wins versus last year playoff teams, man, in the way that they did it. So it's always you always talk about and say you go through a bunch of things you go through in your life in one game, and that can be said for today's game, man. Fantastic. 4-0. Number 1 in the division, number 1 in the NFC. I don't know what else to say. So,
hey, I know what to say. You better start believing. They better start believing in my Vikes. They better start believing. Pat, the first thing, man, about this game is just the mindset of our team. I mean, they came in ready to play. I know there's a lot of people out there that's going to have a lot to say about the game, but first and foremost, let me just say, I know that there are some things that, may concern Minnesota Viking fans. There are some things that concern me, probably some things that concern you as well. But here's the bottom line. As my boy Stone Cold Steve Austin would say, here's the bottom line. The Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. And even though the game got ugly in the second half, old Minnesota Vikings teams would have probably found a way to fold. And this Minnesota Vikings team, faced with adversity, faced with a team that was trying to rally and make a comeback in a hostile environment. Lambeau is not an easy place to play. For them to find a way to win this football game speaks volumes about our football team, man. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. It was, it was a roller coaster ride, but I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the dominance. With me, like, I have critiques, I have a lot of praise, but I have critiques as well, right? And one of my critiques that I've been talking about is dry quarters, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at the third quarter, it was a dry quarter. And it was a dry quarter for Green Bay too, but it was a dry quarter. And I don't feel like it needed to be a dry quarter.
Now, Pat, when you say dry quarter, a dry quarter, for the people out there that may not understand what you're talking about, what do you mean by a dry quarter?
It's a goose egg, 0, no points, right? That's like we've had a dry quarter in every single game, right?
Right.
And reluctantly, this is the first time it wasn't in the first half that I believe, right? It was second half, right, of a dry quarter. That's one of the things that gets at me, because how do you come out after halftime when I think we've been doing good coming out of halftime? And I don't think it's play calling. Like, I just think, when you up 28-7, man, it's hard to keep it going, and I get it, right?
Yeah.
It like in any sport, when you up a lot, you kind of turn it off, right? You probably get conservative with some things that you're doing as players or whatever, but we just got to be better at that. but the dominance in that first quarter, first half, especially great field position, being able to get a turnover. Then I think we had 5 of them today, Coach. We had 5 turnovers, 4 turnovers today, 5, I believe. The defense did what they were supposed to. Even like we touched Jordan Love, but we didn't sack him, right? He had 1 sack today. But the defense still led it. And Sam just, man, I don't know about you, Coach, but like I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop with him, right?
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
old Sam. But the shoe has not dropped yet. He's handling it like he's been doing what he did in the first half all season, right? Okay. What I'm more impressed with is there's 2 things I want to really talk about with him, right? I'll always lead with the defense. So let me really lead with the offense this time,
Okay.
Coach. You know,
Yep.
there's 2 things. Number one, in the fourth quarter, when we needed to get down there and get that field goal, right? And to be able to drive them down there, and there was an important field goal because it got the score to 9, right? I think that was highly important especially after they scored. Which the interception, whatever. So I give them props for getting down there to get a score to make it a 2-score game. Okay, that's one of them. But the other part is, and even within that field goal, I felt like what he had done all season, especially in this game, is use his legs. I felt like he didn't have to throw that out. He should have ran for that first down. But with that being said, that's just find something to crack in. I love his escape ability. Like, I love it. That's it. Escapability, right? Being able to escape from tough things within the pocket, being able to extend plays, extend the sticks with his legs. Those are just things that, man, that's you just don't teach those things. That's just something instinctually in you, and you're able to go out and do it for your team.
Yeah, I think, man, the Minnesota Vikings, first of all, man, let me praise our coaching staff and the fellas in purple, because I'm going to tell you, before the start of the season, if you would have told me they've beaten San Francisco, they've beaten the Texans, they've beaten the Green Bay Packers, and you're talking about 3 teams that were in the conversation for being in the Super Bowl. I mean, when you look at all the analysts before the season started, all 3 of those teams were mentioned. And I think in all 4 of those games, we have had opportunities to put a whooping on every single team. Like, you look at the start today, man, that was absolutely fantastic from the Minnesota Vikings. Game was 28-0. Now, my critique is going to be this, and I am not displeased. Like, I watched some other shows today, and I was reading the comments from a lot of Minnesota Viking fans, and they were talking about, B-Flow's defense let us down, and then they was talking about KOC. And listen, man, it is hard. If you look at probably the most dominant team in the league, who's the most dominant team in the league the last 3 years? It's been the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they have games or a few games like this every single year. This is the NFL. This is pro football. You're going to have games where you just don't play well. Like the standard that people put on our defense, it's like if B-Flow doesn't pitch a shutout, then they've had a bad game. And that can't be in the NFL. But here's where I'm going to be critical. We have been touting this running game. We have been touting Aaron Jones as a running back. This is what the coaches have fed us since training camp, that our running game is going to be improved. And Aaron Jones has got out there and proven that he is a back that can get us those tough yards. He runs hard. Today, my only critique is that they took the ball out of his hands 3 times. 3 times they took the ball out of his hand. That crucial 3-and-1 where they should have handed the ball to him, they threw it. Then they had another opportunity on a short 3-and-1 call where they handed the ball to Ty Chandler. And I love Ty Chandler, but he's not Aaron Jones. So you put a different back in, he doesn't get the first down. And then at the end of the game, the crucial play, they run an end around with Jalen Naylor. And I'm like, hand the ball to Aaron Jones. He's
Yeah.
here to get the tough yards. You don't take the ball out of your hands of your best player. Now, I'm not jumping off a cliff in terms of saying KOC should get fired or anything, but these are things that I would question. If I was a journalist and I had the opportunity to go to KOC's press conference tomorrow, I would ask him these things. Like, why do you guys keep taking the ball out of the hands of Aaron Jones in these crucial moments when you know he can get the yard? It just perplexes me, man.
Oh yeah, it's sometimes you outthink yourself as a coach. I've been coached before, and try to use someone else as right. I use the stud as decoy and go with someone else. Like I've done it before, and I go back and I make sure that I'm not making the same mistake twice. So, in this sense, right, when they have opportunity, just give it to them. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on in that moment, but I get it. It can be as simple as that, but the defense are going to key on that person. Yeah, I'm going to go back to what you're saying with people about, the only question I ever had was kick the field goal instead of go for the fourth down. It's 12. That's 2 touchdowns. Had they got the onside kick, all they need is a field goal. So that's the only thing that I just felt like I would have done instead of 4. I get it. It's a risk and reward. If you get the first down, the game's over. But if you kick the field goal, it's more of a 2-possession game because now even if they got an onside, they got to get a touchdown, right?
But Pat, Pat, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that part of that decision making there was because it seemed like to me Naylor was just trying to get the first down. He wasn't necessarily trying to run it into the end zone. His priority was getting the first down. Do you think that part of it was they really wanted to try to give Aaron Jones another crack at getting the touchdown at Lambeau? That's what I thought when I first saw it. I'm like, they really want to get him this touchdown.
If that's the case, then give it to him on fourth down.
Exactly. That's my point.
Like, if that's the case, then give it to him on fourth down.
Right.
Right. That, like, we tried to get trickery. Addison's touchdown was beautiful, but you tried to do something else different like that. Like, nah, man, let's just keep it simple, right? Between the tackles, he's a phenomenal runner, right? Just give it to him. But I want to go back to the defense and people talk about that. First and foremost, you got to tip your hat off to the Green Bay Packers offensive line.
Oh, the offensive line was fantastic.
So, like, no matter what you're saying, you got to tip your hat off to the Green Bay Packers. We turned them over 4 or 5 times, right, today. I think it's 5. But that offensive line blocked their tails off. Now, did he bring the same type of pressure in the second half that he did in the first half? No, he didn't, right? But we were winning one-on-one battles in the first 3 games where we didn't win those one-on-one battles to really sack the quarterback, right, this week, right?
Yeah.
So I think their offensive line, right, like did a fantastic job that adjusted some things that he had to do defensively, right? Where he wasn't getting that pressure where it made it easier for guys on the back end. But Jordan Love threw for 389 yards, okay? And people might crack that and be like, oh, man, he threw for 389. Sam Darnold threw for 275. Sam Darnold threw half and less times that Aaron. Imagine that. Your D-backs have to drop back 54 times in a game.
Yes.
Sam, he threw 100 more yards and twice the number of passes than Sam. I think that's a pretty darn good job for him stepping back throwing 54 times, right? It's going to happen. Like, they're professionals. So to me, you can't really crack that, right? I mean, if you want a quarterback to drop back there and throw 50-some passes or whatever, right, he's going to torch anyone. That's just, I don't care what defense it is. You could put the best damn cornerbacks out there, all-star team out there. They're going to give up yards if someone's dropping back that much, right? And wide blitz, like we didn't get the same type of pressure that we did in the first 3 games without with just 4 guys rushing. So that's to the offensive line. But once again, you throw the ball that much, the defense turns you over, right? So you got to look at it, right? Out of 54, 5 of those, we got turnovers.
Yep.
So, right, and we gave up some yards, right? So, eh, and we didn't give up 100 yards rushing because that's all they did. So, like, if you combined it together that's pretty darn good, right? Because for us, we put up on their heads 400 yards with our rushing,
Yep.
So, I mean, these are offenses, these are fantastic, humans out there that's playing on the offensive end. So, I wouldn't crack it. Yes. Do I hate the prevent? Yes, I hate the prevent. Sometimes I feel like, why not do it? But I felt like he had to make an adjustment in the second half instead of bringing all those guys and leaving the back end, knowing that they were going to throw the ball that much.
Right. See, and again, here's where I'm gonna break it down because I think you're absolutely right. The Green Bay Packers offensive line played extremely well today. There were times where we did blitz and we couldn't get to him. They kept Jordan Love clean. But I'm gonna say this as well because you and I both are, you've been a head coach. I'm a head coach right now, and there are moments in games where you have to make a decision. One of the hardest things to do, like, I'm a press guy. In basketball, I love the press. And I think that's equivalent in football to the blitz. So I'm a guy that likes to press. And when you get that 20-point lead, you can continue to press. But as the game goes on and it gets to be that fourth quarter and a team starts to make a run at you, you've got to make a decision. Do we gamble? Because that's essentially what pressing is. Do we continue to gamble, or do we play a defense that makes them burn some clock a little bit, that helps us get back on defense, that helps us get set? See, I think that's what B-Flow was faced with today. They had that big lead, early in the game, and then the offense stopped moving the ball, and Green Bay started to, light their fire in terms of offense. They started to make plays, and then that gap started to close a little bit. So if I'm B-Flow, I'm like, do I keep sending people and have a chance to give up a big play? Or do I sit back in the zone, make them throw underneath, keep bodies in front of us so we can tackle? See, I think a lot of people miss that, especially the fans. Man, some of those decisions, especially when you have big leads, are extremely tough and extremely hard. And I saw a little bit of that from B-Flow today. It was like, man, they're making a run at us. Do I continue to do what we do, or do I make an adjustment and try to keep bodies in front of us? And sometimes you can be really successful at that. Sometimes you can fail at it. And Green Bay Packers took advantage of that late.
Oh yeah, but once again, how many you're not going to, and Green Bay Packers is a good team, right? So that's a good team. You're not going to shut out a good team no matter what, right? That would be them on their worst night. We got them on their worst half, right? And we took advantage of it. But obviously they kept getting opportunity after opportunity. They're going to score, right? Short field, the turnover, right? The muff punt, like, our mistakes gave them short field, just like their mistakes gave us short field.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to look at our fumble, our interception, and muff punt. Like, those things right there gave them something in short field to spark at, right? And knowing that the defense had been out there, right? So once you off the field and you got to come back on, right? I mean, something's bound to happen, especially a good team like that. But with all that being said, that's critiquing things. And in the NFL or in any sport, you have to learn how to win in so many different ways. And this was a hold on adversity. Damn, we didn't just give it all up. So, like, I feel like you just got to win in so many ways. And this is one of the ones where you were able to hold off the surge that was coming. And you were on, like, if we would have been in US Bank Stadium, that wouldn't happen, right? The surge coming later wouldn't. They're at home, right? We don't have to go there anymore this year unless something dramatic happens and they number one in the division, we not number one, whatever, right? You don't have to go there anymore, right? But when they come to us at the end of the year, which is going to be a pretty big game, I just don't think that when they had the fans behind them, they're going to make a run, right? It's kind of like the San Francisco 49ers. They was going to make a little run in that game to shorten the gap. You got it. The team that we know that we are, was the team that was able to finish the game in the last 2 drives to be able to get the field goal. Well, even the team, because you got to think about it, we would have got another field goal. So both getting down there at the goal line, down there in the red zone to get field goals. That's who we are, right? And then the defense to be able to prevent them. And what we did in the first 2 quarters, right? That's who we are. The third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter, right? There was things that happened. That is football, right?
Yeah.
That's just football, right? Anybody can lose, a game. So it's just football. So you kind of got to deal with those things. So I give you an example, like just quick example. Who's another team? What are some other teams that have looked really good this year in the NFL, Coach? Can you give me two other teams?
Chiefs, I guess. Chiefs look pretty good. I mean, they don't look like they normally look, but they're finding ways to win games. They're a really efficient team. So, I would throw the Chiefs out there. I'll also throw the Buffalo Bills out there.
Okay, you throw the Buffalo Bills out there. How's the Baltimore Ravens look to you, Coach?
They haven't looked very good.
Okay,
not, especially not like they normally look.
Baltimore Ravens are beating Buffalo Bills 21-3 right now.
Yeah.
That's football. That's just
the
football.
NFL,
I'm just
man.
throwing it out like to whoever is critiquing. It's football. Any given Sunday, something could happen, right?
Yeah.
So for us to be learning to win in different ways, and they're still trying to gel, and we're still not fully healthy yet. So I tip my hat off to the coaches. Great game plan. Players, great job of executing. Great win coming out of Lambeau. Get yourselves back home safe.
Yeah. This is Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We got my guy, Rap, is in the house on the chat from Vocal Vike. You guys want to see a great podcast, check out Vocal Vike with my guy, Rap. Rap, thanks for all your support, man. We really appreciate it. When you think about the Minnesota Vikings, man, we looked at this schedule, and everybody thought that this was the gauntlet. That's what they named it. Then, they named it the gauntlet. And what the Minnesota Vikings are slowly doing is they're winning those tough games. So the expectation is going to be, okay, we're winning our tough game. Now the schedule is going to get easier. And I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said. Like, this is the NFL. If things were for certain, if every team that was supposed to win won games, then Vegas would be out of business. That's the whole thing with handicapping. You just can't pick these games. The fact that KOC and B-Flow are finding ways to game plan and win these games, and I think all of their game plans in all 4 games have been pretty solid. I mean, you could see it. I thought they tried. I thought they tried to get to Jordan Love early, but like you said, the Green Bay Packers offensive line was pretty stout, man. They just didn't let a lot of pressure get in there, and I think that was a point of emphasis. I mean, they're bringing their prized toy back in Jordan Love. They didn't want him to get out there getting hit too much. So I think during that week of preparation for this Minnesota Vikings game, they put a premium on pass protection. But I thought the Minnesota Vikings adjusted really well. And if it wasn't for a couple of plays, man, this could have been one of those games where it could have been 42-7 type game. Honestly, it should have been 35-0 real quick. We had that muff punt by Naylor, who lost it in the sun. But to be quite frank with you, if they hand the ball off the previous possession of Aaron Jones, that punt never happens. They can run the clock out in the first half, and Green Bay never scores. So you can go back and second guess a lot of things, but like you just mentioned, man, the Minnesota Vikings are finding a way to win, and I sure as hell am going to enjoy it and take 4-0. And we have a great opportunity, not looking ahead too far, because I'm going to enjoy the 4-0 start. But the Minnesota Vikings have a really good chance of going 5-0 when they go over to London. The Jets really didn't look very good today. So the Vikes have a really good shot to be 5-0 going into the bye. And who in the hell would have picked that at the beginning of this season?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have picked it. And, what I giving up 389 yards, I wouldn't go back to here is, man, we've been stout in our run game, right? So we made them one-dimensional. Right?
Yeah.
We made them one-dimensional, right? And it worked out for us, right? We made them one-dimensional. and we've been making teams one-dimensional where they have to pass like that. But making them one-dimensional where they got to pass like that, the guys have been doing their job on the back end because they're not giving up points, right? This is the most points we've given up, like, combined. Like, all season we've given up 30 points coming into this game. I mean, come on. Like, at some point, something like somebody's going to have a good game, right?
That's
It
right.
just happens,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, I can look forward to next week, and the Jets' main offense is, Allen and Hall, Brees Hall and Bryce from what's the guy name from Wisconsin? I don't know what his name is, but so we with us shutting down the run game like that, that's and an older guy and Aaron Rodgers, we gonna touch him, right? I've been using that to a lot of people, right? We touch quarterbacks, right? Our defense likes to touch quarterbacks. They probably a little pissed off. They only walked out the door with 1 sack. So
Right.
I feel bad for you, Aaron, because they got to get back to the tradition of getting 5 sacks a game, So, man, a W's a W. You take it how you get it. All 3 phases, right? They're humans. Mistakes happen. How can they go clean that up? I still would love us to clean up the turnovers. We won the turnover battle in every single game, but let's stop turning the ball over. You know what I mean, Coach?
Right.
Like, let's stop turning the ball over. And I know you guys, you Vikings fans out there. Once again, no one put us there. I knew the culture within that organization that it could be special and the defense, right, could lead it. But at the end of the day, like Sam Darnold, right?
Oh, man. Listen, I don't
Sam
know.
Darnold.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the ESPN pregame show with Greeny, Randy Moss, and the fellas, but Teddy Bruschi, man, Teddy Bruschi has been on the show for a while, and Teddy Bruschi today, he had a weird energy. It's almost like he wanted Sam Darnold to fail, and he was trying to squash the first 3 games that the Vikings have played, and he was like, everybody's believing in Sam, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, everybody is, believing in Sam Darnold, and let me tell you this, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time for Sam Darnold. And then Sam Darnold, here it is again, comes in, balls out, threw 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he had the pick. All right, quarterbacks are going to throw picks. And then he had the fumble, which I don't think was his fault. He had a blitzer coming from his blind side. He was in the process of throwing the football, got hit in the back and fumbled it. I don't know how you hold on to a ball in that situation, but for all intents and purposes, was this Sam Darnold's best game? I could argue that it's probably one of his best games in his career because he hasn't always played that well. Not one of his best games with the Minnesota Vikings, but again, like you said earlier, man, he stayed steadfast and was able to get the job done. The young man is balling out.
Oh, yeah, he's balling out. Forget about Bruschi. Who cares about what he's talking about? I listen to all the post games. I listen to, after the game, to all the networks post games about him, and they can see what everyone can see, right? He's probably one of the leading candidates right now, right? Like right now, we look at the Heisman race, right? And you look at 3 people, right? You look at Melroy, you look at Cam Ward, and you look at Travis Hunter. Well, right now, Sam Darnold is in the MVP race right now. That's without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
We can say he's in the MVP race right now. You can't say Jordan Love is, right? Can't say Joe Burrow is, right? You probably could say Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and this kid right here, Sam Darnold, right? So there it is right there. Fantastic, man. We talked about him, Coach, and I'm be honest. Can I just be honest with you, Coach?
Go ahead, man.
And I want to be honest with everybody out there. When we spoke about him this offseason, and part of the reason we said, he had the talent, he just didn't have the weapons, right? I'm going to be honest. I was psyching myself out when I was saying that. I ain't even lying to you, Coach, because I didn't know what was going to show out there.
Yeah.
I feel like I was creating this psyche, and I feel like all of us were when JJ went down. Like, we had to create this narrative in our head to make us believe it. And the honest part of it is I didn't know. In the first 4 games, I had no idea. I don't think anyone had this idea of 11 touchdown passes, right? This
No.
idea of, how many ever in the first 4 games, right? Over 1,000 yards passing. Like, I don't think we thought about this, right? And it has happened, and he's done it, and he's making me more of a believer in himself. He's just so even keel that, I mean, I love that he got fired up, right, in his touchdowns. JJ's catch, that went off the touchdown, right? I love to see those fiery moments because when he stands up in front of the microphone, he's just this, right? It's like, he doesn't get too nervous at all. But man, he's doing. I talk so much about defense. This offense between him and AJ, Aaron Jones, man, coach, wait, this running game is for real.
Yeah, but you gotta run it though. Purple's in the house saying we gotta learn to play with the lead when blowing teams out. I totally agree with that. Part of that, man, is pounding the running game. Like as a head coach, you've got to be able to count possessions and look at the time. And this team, their running game is for real. Like
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. But I think sometimes when you have a preference of how to play, it's hard to switch gears. And I know KOC loves to throw the ball, loves the pass, but I thought they overpassed a little bit in the second half, trying to get some things. Again, we can go back to the end of the first half as well. Man, but pound Aaron Jones. Like, I know you don't want to put a lot of wear and tear on him, but in certain games, in certain instances, like you got to let him tote the rock and burn some of that clock off. And I thought that they got away from that a little bit.
Oh, definitely. They it will get better. Everyone's still learning each other, and the coaches learning what they can trust in more and more. And I know we're 4 games in, but there's 13 games left, right?
Oh yeah.
And I know we'll see more and more of it. But Purple, it's hard to protect leads though. As long as they're not losing the game with protecting the lead, at this moment I can be okay with it. And you're right, we got to protect leads better. But these are professionals, right? These other teams are good, right? Like it just happens. Yeah, they let the foot off the gas, Scott, and I'm always a believer like you, coach, right? Like I get mad at my teams. Like I'm like, man, we putting the foot on the throat and we keeping it there. When you give them some air, I'm ticked the hell off. And today I was getting ticked off because we was letting them breathe some. And you was supposed to choke the life out of them. So, and I'm only using this sense because it's the Packers, right? Choke the life out. The rest of them ain't going to use that, but it was the Packers. But it's the Packers. This is our rivalry, right? They were going to score, but long as we learning how to win in other ways. Now, if this happens in I believe that is week 15, 16 that we play them again. And if we do this and we jump out and we leave it off, then I'm like, damn, I don't know if we're ready for the playoffs, right? But this is something that I'm happy with. And KOC is going to study the film. B-Flow is going to study the film, and they're going to make better decisions. Even Daniels is going to study the film with special teams, how to fix that. So all those things they'll fix, and it's fixable. That's why you have game tape.
Yeah. Well, it's getting close to Halloween, and hey man, I'm gonna tell you something that's a little bit scary because you talked about Aaron Jones. I'm gonna focus on Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison came off the scrap heap in terms of being injured, hadn't really gotten any work, just started to practice this week. And did he enhance the Vikings offense today? Can you imagine? Like Munt has been doing a really good job filling in for TJ Hawkinson. Can you imagine when we get the full cupboard of weapons back into play with this system and what Sam Darnold is doing? You got TJ Hawkinson, who's going to be more of an insurance policy, being able to check the ball down, throw it across the middle. You've got another dynamic. You saw what happened today. The Green Bay Packers were bracketing JJ. And it was hard for him to get balls early. People were talking about where's Justin Jefferson, and they had 2 or 3 guys bracketing him at all time, which freed up Jordan Addison a lot, and he was able to do work. It's only going to get better once you add TJ Hawkinson to that system to be able to threaten down the field a little bit more as well. And I thought Jordan Addison came in and played a stellar game today. What are your thoughts on Jordan Addison?
Man, Jordan Addison was it was like, damn, where you we got this too. Forgot about him after week 1. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it was great to see another one of the pieces being healthy, being able to be out there. And hopefully he gets rested up, iced up good, so he's good to go over in London, which I know he will be. But it was fantastic to see him get in the end zone. He eats up Green Bay Packers every time he plays them. So
Every time he
plays the Packers, he eats them up. So it was good to see him out there, right? So you're talking about that. So the time that he was going away in the preseason helped Naylor establish himself. You got Jefferson, you got Addison, you're going to get TJ back, you got Aaron Jones, now we can say this, you got Sam Darnold, right? It's a weapon, right? I'm just naming all the weapons, right? That we have. And it is, man, it's scary because I'm like, damn, where were we wanted the leading scorers in the NFL, where we're going to start averaging 40 points a game, right? So, I mean, if we start scoring like that, like, other teams are going to score too. Like, so if we win games 40-20, like, are people going to be not happy? Like we took they wanted a 40-0 game. There's going to be a game where we don't give up any points or give up 3 or just 7 points. That is going to happen. That happened in the first game. I think we only gave up 8 points, right? So it's going to happen where it's going to be one of them ridiculous games that we're going to do. But, man, when it comes to all of these weapons, man, damn, I'm just thinking about how do you defend that? Do you know that man hit 8 targets today? 8 different receivers caught the ball today.
Yep.
8 different receivers.
Yeah. And it's only going to get better for the Vikings. I agree with Sarah. A win's a win, most definitely. The thing about the Minnesota Vikings is everybody's waiting for the shoe to drop, but this is different. This is different than a couple years ago when we were winning those single-digit games. The way the Vikings are playing right now on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, it's sustainable, Patrick. Like, they're not doing anything off the cuff. They're not doing anything with smoke and mirrors. They are in their philosophy. They believe in it. Their players are engaged with their coaching staff, and everything that they're doing is sustainable. They're not allowing Sam Darnold to play out of himself or play out of pocket. They're giving him safe throws. They've enhanced their screen game. They've built up their running game. The offensive line is not the best offensive line in the league, but they're in the conversation. I mean, they're playing pretty well, keeping Sam Darnold pretty clean. They haven't had, like in normal years, 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3 and out. When we had Kirk Cousins, they're sustaining drives. So if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, when people are talking about how far can this Viking team go, I don't know how far they're going to go. But all I know is that their level of play and what they're doing philosophy-wise with this football team, Pat, it travels and it's sustainable, and you're going to be able to see glimpses of this every week they play. And that's what I'm really excited about when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, yeah, we can, Purple, I'm meshing Purple and Scott's, comments together. And, yeah, that was out there, like, how would we handle adversity, right? And, going back to 2 years ago when we won the 11 one-score games, right? Like, we all agree that it feels a lot different than that. Like,
it's completely different.
One-score games. And the one difference is Donatello versus B-Flow, right? And I'm just being honest here, and Sam Darnold versus Kirk Cousins. That's like, those are 2 factors that the reason why this looks a lot different than it did 2 years ago. But once again, 2 years ago, we got different personnel from 2 years ago. And I shared with a lot of people early on, especially like when I was making my picks of like 2 years ago, we won the division. We got so many injuries. We went 7-10. And then I said, look at the additions. If the X factor was what Sam is doing, no one knew it. And this is why they are very relevant and very tough, and that they can
Right.
fight through. KOC is really whispering. They say he's a whisperer. He's whispering like a motherfucker in his ear, right?
Yeah.
Don't ever start talking to the man. Just keep whispering shit. You know, if he can't hear you, just hit him on the back of the head. You know what I'm saying? Just keep whispering to him, because right now he's showing that.
Yeah, where Sam Darnold has come from, people have, it's probably been overblown. People use the term for KOC being the quarterback whisperer. Man, but when you see his body of work with these quarterbacks, when you see this body of it really makes me excited. And again, I'm not looking too far ahead. I'm present. I'm enjoying the 4-0, but it really makes me excited about what he's going to be able to do with like a JJ McCarthy. I mean, he's doing a really good job with Sam Darnold. And I think the key is he's not allowing him to play out of pocket. You've got a quarterback who is pretty cerebral in Sam Darnold, so he's obviously picking up the playbook. And anytime he starts to get out of pocket, like I think Scott said earlier that the wind must have been blowing pretty hard because some of his balls were kind of sailing pretty high. I think part of that is Sam Darnold has a tendency to get really, really amped up. And to have a calming influence on the sideline like KOC to be in his ear all the time during crucial points of the game is huge for Sam. I don't think he's really had that when he was playing. I mean, he probably had it in San Francisco, but he didn't play in San Francisco. But when he was with the Jets and the Panthers, probably didn't have the coach that could do that. He had to go out there and wing it and really make decisions on his own. And I think KOC is doing a fantastic job with him. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, fantastic job. And I'm gonna touch back on second half leads and things like that. I don't want us to have short-term memory on here and people here watching. Okay, so we're talking about giving up leads and things like that. You got to remember the first 4 games of the season and the last 4 games of the season last year of the defensive backs we had. Would you or would you not agree where you look and say, okay, if there was last year's defensive backs in the first 4 and the last 4 games, we would have lost the San Francisco game and we would have lost today's game. Would you agree with that, Coach?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means we have better personnel to be able to finish those type of games. That is what championship DNA is built from, where you're able to finish those types of games and hold the teams off. They're going to make runs. They're going to score. It just happens. And I just we could be in last year's defense where you had what's the kid we done sent over down to Texas? What was his name that was still on the team? We could have Lewis Seen playing one of the positions, and then the cornerback that was from Clemson that never panned out too, like being a corner. Those guys aren't on this team, and the team has not given up the lead at all. Like
Pat,
I don't think I think we've led in every game, all throughout every game, all for the 16 quarters, if I'm not mistaken.
We've led all but 4 minutes. All but 4 minutes in all the game. The one thing I'm gonna say is,
you're
when
right.
you're watching football,
and Neil Hunter gone. So
yeah, there's a lot that goes into football, but great teams have great balance. They've got good offenses, they have good defenses, and I think the offense is directly correlated to the defense. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. Like when you watch the Minnesota Vikings defense, don't just watch the results of the play. Watch the philosophy of it all, and then watch all the actions that happen before the ball starts. I mean, you got guys running up to the line. You got guys that were on the line running back into cover 2. That takes a lot of energy. B-Flow's defense is really really aggressive. There's a lot of movement to it. These guys are not just lining up and standing still. That takes a lot of exertion. And so when you have an offense that stalls and starts going 1, 2, 3 out, and they can't keep the ball for a long period of time, which happened in the second half of this game, that's fatiguing, man, to that defense. For those of you who never played football before, you're going up to the line, you're stunning, you're falling back into coverage, you're doing all this stuff. Man, that's hard work, and it's fatiguing, let alone when the ball is snapped. You got to chase wide receivers all around the field and tackle and stop running backs. So, when the offense starts to stall, I think it's directly related to the fatiguing of the defense. When the offense can sustain those drives and keep our defense on the sideline for long periods of time so they can get some rest, it enhances our defense. Just keep track. Anytime our offense has trouble, I think that's when our defense starts to have trouble, and you saw a little bit of that today.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to just say this, and I kind of want to jump off of it, right? Because I don't want to, the average is 15 points a game that we're giving up. I think we average scoring 29, 30 points a game. That's a margin of victory right there. And as long as that's happening, you're going to give up some points and things are going to happen. What I want to touch, because we haven't touched it yet, and knowing that we're averaging, Aaron Jones has 530 some yards, from scrimmage.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. This Sam Darnold has 11 passing touchdowns and 1,000 yards passing, something like that. Chandler's sprinkled in there. This does not happen without the trenches. And I have to tip my hat off to that offensive line that people critiqued for the last 2 years. They critiqued, and now they're showing the roots of it, right? You can't run the ball like that without an offensive line, right? He doesn't get sacked that much. He's not able to throw 11, touchdowns without an offensive line doing their job. The offensive line is doing their job. Yeah, we cracks Ingram sometimes with whatever, and the center done missed the Bradbury. But let's be honest, the offensive line is playing fantastic, coach.
They're playing good football, man. They're playing good football.
Yes, Aaron Jones is dynamic, but the offensive line is doing their job. Last year or the year before, even when we won 11 games, that was a trash offensive line. Kirk was getting touched all the damn time. That offensive line is doing their job. They're protecting their quarterback. They're moving, right? Space and creating holes for Chandler and Jones to run through. I think we got to really look up that up front and say we're not averaging 29, 30 points a game, right? Without that offensive line doing what they're doing. If it was the offensive line from 2 years ago, it'd be a different story, right? Aaron Jones wouldn't look like this. But those guys have got older, more experienced, more mature, and man, they're doing fantastic up front.
Well, they're versatile, Pat. They're versatile. They can get lateral. They can get vertical really quick in terms of the screen game. They're strong. They can move bodies off the line to enhance the running game, and they're pretty decent pass protectors as well. So when you look at all three areas of the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, they have passing grades and all of it. And so when you have that, the trenches are not the sexiest part of a football team, but when you talk about the offensive line and the defensive line, when you have those areas playing pretty well, as you can see, it enhances the football team, which has gotten us off to a 4-0 start. You flip to the defensive side of the ball, a young man that we've been mentioning every single podcast is Patrick Jones. I mean, how many big plays did Patrick Jones make today? I mean, his versatility, they got him lined up inside. For the most part, he's on the outside, but this kid is making a statement this year. I believe he's had a sack in every game this season. I mean, he's absolutely playing lights out.
Oh, yeah, he's playing lights out. And I mean, let's flip to the other side of the trenches, right? Front seven, right? Front four. If I'm not mistaken, Jacobs, I believe he got close to, if not 100 yards from scrimmage, right? Against the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, the man could only get 51 yards rushing today. That doesn't happen without the trenches, right? Your defensive trenches taking care of their job, right?
Yeah.
Like that would force them to become one-dimensional for Jordan Love to throw the damn ball 54 times, right? That was by design, right? Because they know if they can make them one-dimensional, it made it easier for us. That's why it looks so good right away, because he's third and longs. Look how many third and longs, and they had to go for so many fourth downs, right? But look at the third and longs that Jordan Love was in. Every single one. I believe, if not mistaken, 75 to 80% of his third downs were 6 or more yards. That's third and long, right? And that's what he dealt with because of no run game and because of the trenches up front. So, like offensive line, defensive line, those things all equate to the win, right? And we go back and look at it once again. Like, our defensive line did a fantastic job in run blocking. Fucking Green Bay Packers offensive line did a fantastic job in pass blocking. Right? Once again, that's going to happen. We can't dominate hopefully we can dominate, but we can't fully dominate good teams like that. It looked good the first two, but the third one, we weren't at home. We looked way better at home than we did on the road versus a good team, but we still came out with a W on the road.
Yeah, well, the question is, what type of team are we when we are facing adverse conditions? For you peers out there, everyone knows I was really close to Flip Saunders, former head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, kind of a mentor of mine, taught me a lot of things when it comes to basketball. And the one thing that resonates to me is in terms of knowing who your team is, and this applies to football or any other sport that you're coaching out there. Flip used to always say the stats that you should pay attention to is your team stats when you're up by 8 points or when you're down by 8 points. Nothing really matters because that's when you play your hardest. When you're up by 20 points in a basketball game, or like today, the Vikings are up by 28 points, human nature is you're going to let your foot off the pedal. That's just human nature. And when you're behind by 28 points, odds are you're going to stop fighting. You're going to quit. So those really aren't realistic views of your team. The realistic view of your team is when that game is close. When that game is close and every play starts to count and you've got to make decisions. And that's where the Minnesota Vikings are passing. They receive a passing grade because they looked adversity in the face today. Green Bay, for all intents and purposes, at home started to rally and to make a comeback against them. And they stared the Green Bay Packers down and said, you're not winning this game. And when the Minnesota Vikings had to make plays, when Sam Darnold had to make key throws, when they had to pick up a first down, they did it. And I think a lot of people are going to focus on the comeback. But when the comeback happened, what type of team was the Minnesota Vikings? They were a team that was able to handle adversity and get the job done and win that game. And that's where I'm really proud of the Purple and their coaching staff.
Oh, yeah, of course. When and it was bam, bam, right? 15 points just like that. They scored a touchdown. We go down, interception. They come down, get a score, right? 15 points in a matter of 5 minutes, right? It was like, holy shit, there's 10 minutes left on the clock. You know what I mean? Like the fourth quarter starts and it's 10 minutes left and, this is a 28 to 22 game. How do you handle that?
Yeah.
And I think we handled it pretty damn well, right?
Yeah.
Because within that time, we had 2 takeaways. We had an interception, we had a fumble, right? Recovery. We had 2 takeaways. We had 0 turnovers, I believe. No. Maybe the Sam fumbled happened within that moment as well. So we still won that battle. Could have ran the ball a little bit more, but we were able to go down to get a field goal, right? Probably should have got 2. I'm still go back and say I would have took the field goal instead of going on for 4th and 1, right? I still would have took it. So, but they handled it, right? 6-point game. They looked Green Bay eye to eye and finished the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it goes back to something that you've been hammering home to the UP since we started doing this, man. It is the depth of this team. You talk about the tight end spot. You know, we've got someone in the chat talking about Oliver and Munt doing a fantastic job. You're talking about the second and third tight end of your team going out there making plays, and TJ Hawkinson is not even there yet, but he'll be back in a few weeks. But again, to handle that depth, that's another thing that this team is keep showing, is that they are able to have pieces missing and still have guys step up and make plays. And that shows you the strength of this team as well, man. I'm pleased with the depth of this team.
Oh, it does. And I don't know who this viewer is, subscriber is that's online right now. That's a very good point. Good win, right? A good second half ass whipping keeps them focused. You are exactly right. Like when you lose the second half like you lost, that is the point of the whole night. Like now, it keeps them locked in, between the ears, right? And that you can't say it any better, Coach. Can you say it any better?
No,
it
you
keeps
can't.
them focused. They're not looking past the Jets to the bye week. They are going in there to handle business, and it will keep focused. Because I'd be pissed off too if I was up 28-7, and then next thing you know, it was 28-22. I'd be ticked the hell off. I love the players even mention it, talking about it in the post game. Like that was part of their post game speech. We can't let teams come back into games like that. So as all of us are speaking about it, our leaders in the locker room are talking about it, the coaches are talking about it. They get, preparation, right? Everyone, trust me, they were already at home watching film. They're going to be ready for film session tomorrow with the guys, and then start preparing on Tuesday for the Jets, right? And trust me, that would piss me off knowing that we have not done it like that, right? There, we played a prevent against Purdy, but the game was really over, right? And that was a little different than this. This was, you gave up some shit here. Like we gave up some stuff in this one where I'd be pretty pissed off. But that was a fantastic comment right there. This will keep them locked in, and that's good because I want to be 5-0 going into bye week. So I need them to get locked in. I need them to touch up on Aaron Rodgers a little bit, maybe a lot bit, because we only got 1 sack, and I feel like we got to get like 6-7 sacks. 6-7 sacks would make me feel good.
Yeah. Well, here's the $1 million question, before we wrap it up. There's a lot of things that we can unpack, really about the Minnesota Vikings. But I remember, a lot of NFL football aficionados used to always say, you got to take the season in segments. And back when the NFL played 16 games, there were four game segments that you could look at, and you just took a chunk of 4 games and went 4 times, and then you look back and you evaluate your team. Well, the Minnesota Vikings have played 4 games. They're 4-0 right now. And I think when they beat the Giants, everybody kind of, really dismissed that game. And then when they beat San Francisco, it was like that started to open some eyes. And then what they did to the Texans, that really caught people's attention. And then to go into Lambeau and win a game today, which they very well could have lost, probably you're going to start to hear some rumblings now. And here's where I am with the Minnesota Vikings. I was going to take my time. I said it in past podcasts. I think we should stop the Super Bowl talk and kind of slow our roll a little bit and let this thing play out, a little bit, at least, to 8 games or whatever. Here's what I'm starting to think about the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to go as far as to say right now. Like, I'm not comfortable saying right now that the Vikings are going to be a Super Bowl team. They're one of 2 undefeated teams in the league. But the one thing that I will say about the Minnesota Vikings is that what they're doing, they can do consistently every single week. And it's a great brand of basketball. I mean, not basketball, football. I got basketball on the brain. My season started. But it's a great brand of football. And I think they are going to be a hard team to beat because both sides of the ball really, really complement each other very well. And that's where, I take my hat off to the coaching staff, man. I just think they've done a really, really good job with this football team. And I think, are we going to get some dings along the way? We're not going to go 17-0. I wish we could go 17-0, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a tough out every week, and I think they're going to show up to play every single week. So I'm really, really excited about this football team.
Oh yeah, the way you said it and put it in sayings, Coach, why can't we go 17? Like we just got through the toughest part. People was talking about these three straight games that we just had. Vikings ain't gonna make it through that. Vikings can't do that. If the Vikings can make it through that, man, what makes you think that they can't? I'm not worried about the rest of the AFC South. What are you worried about with the AFC South? You worried about the NFC West? I'm not worried about the NFC West. There's no team. The only team that left on our schedule that is going to be a tough game is going to Detroit Lions. That is the toughest game that I feel is left on the schedule. Like tough, where I'm like, that's some shit that's going to be hard to win that game. Like it's going to the Detroit Lions. There's nothing else after we hit this but I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong.
Things change throughout the year.
Right, but seeing how everyone's played in the first 4 games, it's at the Detroit Lions, right?
Yeah.
But I could be wrong about it, but in my opinion, it's at the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been looking up and looking down. The links are on. It's a close game in the fourth quarter, 5-point game. So I looked up there. So then I had to look at the game. After the bye weeks, we at home versus Lions. I'm not worried about the Rams. I'm not worried about the Colts. This is not disrespecting the Jaguars, the Titans, the Bears. He just threw his first touchdown. The Cardinals, the Falcons. Oh, Kirk coming to us. The Bears, the Seahawks, the Packers. Come on, the last game of the season is at Detroit Lions. So why can't we, right? If we find ways to keep us focused and they complement each other, and it's going to be hard to beat these complementary offense and complementary defense. Why? But I'm not going to jump ahead. Hey, everybody, you watched every show. I only move one game at a time. I just had to say that just to make you, because you said, we ain't going to go 17-0. So I'm focused on the Jets. The Jets, though, Coach.
No, the reason why I said that, and here's what the Vikings are going to encounter that they haven't encountered in the first 4 games. The Minnesota Vikings now, they're going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
Like, before the season started, people were thinking, Vikings, they're going to get the first pick in the draft. They're going to start 0-8, to start the season. They were respected, but I don't think, honestly, they were getting everybody's best shot. Now that they're 4-0, everybody's going to try to be the team that can knock them off. And the more and more they're successful they become, the harder some of those games are going to be. The preparation for other teams are just going to be different. The game planning, the scouting reports. When you're at the top of the mountain, that's why it's so hard to stay at the top of the mountain, because now the game planning and everything for your team becomes a little bit more intense. But like I said before, the one thing that this team is showing is that they can stare adversity in the face, make decisions, and find ways to win games. And Pat, that's where I'm excited about this Minnesota Vikings team, man. They could have very well had folded today. We've seen past Viking teams do that. They found a way to win a football game, man. And that's what makes me most excited about this team and what happened today with the Green Bay Packers.
100%. I felt like they had an X on their back when the Texans came, and an X on their back with Green Bay Packers. But I hear what you're saying. You are going to get your best. I know what that feels like, right? But what was I about to say? I had a statement to make. Yeah, we are going to get everyone's best of the best, and I'm happy about that. And with that, with us getting everyone's best of the best, the adversity, I feel this is what I was going to my statement. And I'm not saying other people don't go through it, because everyone goes through it, but as a team, in this offseason, I don't think anyone had bigger adversity. I'm going to say this again. I'll say it every single podcast. No NFL team went through bigger adversity than I believe the Minnesota Vikings did in the offseason. And you could talk about somebody, their player got injured. No one lost their life. A brother lost their life. and you have to go through that and deal with that. That's different.
That's
And to be able
very
to get
different.
back on the field and play and get better and mourn them and celebrate them at the same time. So I think they're going to be able to continuously hit in adversity as they showed today, as they'll have to show next week.
Yeah.
And the week after that, and the week, like they're going to have to go through it. But I think they've looked it in his eyes, Coach, and I think they know what it looks like. And I think that's their reminding factor, you know, for them to be able to never give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. All of that adversity, I think you bring up a good point. All of that adversity this offseason really seems to have brought this team together, galvanized this football team and the coaching staff. I mean, you know, obviously you and I aren't there on a daily basis, but, you know, when they pull back the curtain and you get an opportunity to peer inside that organization, everybody seems to be in step. Everybody seems to be in concert, and they feed off of that adversary. And it's just, man, 4-0 is just a tremendous start. I'm just going to continue to enjoy this ride of the Minnesota Vikings. Anything you want to say to UP Nation, Pat, before we get out of here, man?
Man, continue to enjoy that. I'll tell you this every time, right? Enjoy this, live it up. Don't look past the Jets. We got to focus on there. You get to celebrate it. I'm a celebrator. But as you're going through the season, do not get too here and too here. Kind of stay in between, ride the wave, celebrate it with them. Just understand that it's a long season. It's a long season. I remember, I think they were 8-1 or 8-0, the San Francisco 49ers, before they went into Cleveland, came here, like they went on a 4-game drought or stuff like that. But they were still able to overcome that, make it to the Super Bowl. So things happen, right? Like, yeah, I just said, well, how could we lose besides Detroit? But the reality is things happen. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes things are out of control and they're human. So
Yeah.
Outside of that, hey, another good show. Appreciate everyone being on. Appreciate talking about the purple all day nation, Skull Nation.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the deal. You know, everybody enjoyed the Vikings being 4-0. This has been a great ride. You know, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for all the UPers that were on tonight in the group chat, engaging with us. We love having you. To my coworkers tomorrow that have been giving me the business all week, where I wasn't saying a thing. I just let them have their way this whole week, talking stuff about the Packers. You know, that's one of the perks of living in Wisconsin, right across the border, is that you get to hear a lot of trash talk all week. So I just sat back in my office and I didn't say a word, but I'm gonna have plenty to say tomorrow. I'm gonna get me a nice cup of coffee. I'm going to get there bright and early, and I'm going to see what they have to say about my Minnesota Vikings. On behalf of my guy, Mr. Patrick Buchanan, who it's been a pleasure doing this show with you, man. I'm having a blast. And myself, Lionel Jones, UP Nation, we will make sure to see you when we see you. We'll see you next time. Latrey, take us out, man.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know who I am.
So confused in this life.